everyone. It's the start of season 2023 for the Chicago Bears, and it's the fourth season. Yeah, you heard it. Fourth season of Let's Talk Chicago Bears. I mean, what else is there to talk about? I know, right? But welcome back. I'm so happy to be back in the saddle again, as they say. And it's a new season. Got to be better than last, right? Got to be. I got to tell you what, I've been a fan. If you followed my show the last 4 seasons, yeah, 4. This is the 4th season. I know, right? I've been a fan since high school. And it's been 48 years. And I love my Bears. You know, I've got a Bears jersey on, Mr. Mooney. Yeah, baby. I got like 9 jerseys. The one bad thing about football nowadays is players don't stay with the teams more than 4 years. So you buy a jersey and it's like obsolete. Back in the day, they played with the team the whole time and the jersey was valid, you know. So, oh well. What are you gonna do? So, but it is the start of it's the last preseason game is tomorrow, but this is my first official show. So, you know, that's why I say that. So, what I want to do though, we're gonna get started. I want to first of all welcome you all back. To my regulars, thank you for coming back. And for anybody who watches me that is new, I'm fun, I'm old, 65-year-old Bears fan who now lives in Vegas. I moved here 5 years ago, was in Illinois my whole life before that, and but I love the Bears, and I love talking about the Bears. So, and my show is fun. It's not, you know, we don't get into the schemes and that kind of stuff. I do 2 shows a week. I do a show before so it's either if they play on Thursdays, I do a Wednesday show. If they play on Sunday, I do a Friday show. Sunday or Monday, I do a Friday show, and then I follow up the day after the Bears plays. So it would be a Friday, a Monday, or Tuesday. You'll get used to it. And then I also do a podcast. I think it's going to be on Wednesdays again with my great buddy Dan, who I love. Hey, Dan. And we do a podcast. I'm going to say Wednesday night, but I could be wrong, and I'll come back and tell you. But it's called Bears Country Podcast with Dan and Lynn. So I'm not sure when we're going to start that yet, so keep that on the back burner. I got to reach out. Me and Dan have to get because Dan is like one busy dude, okay? Really, really busy. So, because he's like popular and famous, unlike myself. So, so let's, you know, and again, thank you for coming back. You know, if you like listening to me, geez, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I have to time myself so I don't talk too long, you know what I mean? Because I'll just go on and on and on. You know, remember, I'm a little pickled, okay? So, but let's start. We have fun on this show, as I was saying. We have fun. You know, I talk about, you know, of course, these are my opinions. I give stats, though, before I compare stats for both teams. We talk about it, and we go on from there. So, again, it's got to be a better year this year than last year, because last year sucked. Just sucked, okay? So, let's get started here. So, first I want to do a shout-out to Steve McMichael. As you all know, he's real sick, and he's got ALS. God, see, already pickled. And I didn't even party last night. Oh my God. So, pickled. But to Steve McMichael, we all know he's sick as shit, and he's not going to be around much longer. And God blessed him. He was one hell of a football player and one hell of a Chicago Bear. And he needs to be in the Hall of Fame. So he is now, we found out this week that he is a finalist for the Hall of Fame, and I'm not sure when that's going to come out. I think it might be in November, where they're going to give the finalists. So they've got to. I mean, he was a part of that 85 Bears defense, and that is and always will be the best defense in the NFL. No defense prior or after will ever be as good as that defense, and we all know it, whether you're a Bears fan or not. And of course, they can't play like that anymore, but still, best defense, so he should be in the Hall of Fame. And I'll do a real quick story about him. He's a really good guy, too. My nephew, Jeffrey, who is the oldest out of my five, who was the oldest out of my five nieces and nephews, and he doesn't really know football that well, but something's wrong here. So anyways, I'm getting very distracted. Anyways, so he was out. This is when Jeff still lived in Chicago. Now he lives in New York, but he went to a benefit with his girlfriend. It was a charity benefit night on a Saturday night, and Steve McMichael was there. And Jeff didn't really know much about him. He had heard his father talking about him a little bit. Well, they ended up talking. And he said Steve McMichael was so cool. And he's like, and so Jeff and his girlfriend were leaving, and he came up to him. He goes, "Where are you going?" He goes, we're out of here. And he goes, "We're going to go to a bar." And he goes, "What bar are you going to?" So Jeff told him. They leave. A half hour later, who shows up at the bar? Steve McMichael. And he's looking around, and he sees Jeff and his girlfriend. He's like, "Oh, they're there." And he goes over and he sits down with them. Yep, he plops down with them, and everybody in the bar is like, "Oh my God, it's Steve McMichael." And he starts having a conversation finishing the conversation he had at the benefit. They were talking about relationships and life and this and that. So Steve McMichael's giving my nephew life help, and then he got to try on the Super Bowl ring, and my nephew, I cannot believe it, didn't even mention me to Steve McMichael, like my aunt is crazy in love with the Bears and this and that, but he said McMichael was the nicest guy in the whole world, and he was giving him advice on marriage and girlfriends and this and that, and he said it was really cool, and he said, and then people in the bar were coming up and asking if they could try his ring out, and my nephew said at one point, he didn't even know where his ring was. It was going all around the bar, and and he didn't care. Of course, he's Steve McMichael. I'm sure he was going to get it back. So, really cool guy. And you know what? Nobody should be suffering like him. My heart goes out to him. You are an awesome human being, an awesome Chicago Bear, and hopefully you will be in the Hall of Fame where you belong. So, our hearts go out to you, Steve. Okay, so, and the other thing is I want to do a shout out to a friend who just moved here. She moved from Texas to Vegas. I've known her since 6th grade. Jean, welcome to Vegas. I love you, baby. You and Andrea, we're going to be watching some Bears games. Rock on. So welcome to Vegas, baby. And let's see, let's get started. So the Bears have played 2 games so far. They won the first one, Tennessee, 23-17, and they lost to Indy 24-17. It doesn't really matter because, as we say, it is preseason, but still, you know, well, you're going to see some play, and you want to see the second and third stringers play good. You want to see the first stringers. We only saw the first stringers for a little bit in the first game, as you know what happened. You watched it. 2 big plays, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But I want to say something about Justin Fields here. Now, if you're a regular watcher of my show, you know I've been on the fence about him for the last couple of years. One of the reasons is he's more, to this point now, it's going to change this year, but it's more of a runner than a passer. And you know, in the NFL, in my opinion, you've got to be more of a passer than a runner to really have a career. Because you get hurt a lot when you run too. And he's from Ohio State, and Ohio State does not have a good track record with quarterbacks in the NFL. So I've been behind him. I've not put him down. I'm here. So this year, in my opinion, this is a do or die year for Fields and the Chicago upper lot, you know, the GM, all those guys, management, owners, because this is his 3rd year, and remember, the regime did not draft him. Poles and Flus, Coach Flus, did not draft him. So remember that. And we have 2 number 1 draft picks next year. So he has got to come out and play very well. He's got to show that he can pass consistently, and he's got to show that he can read the defenses, and he's got to show that he can hang on to the ball. Those were his 3 problems last year. And part of it was the offensive line, we know that, but it was still a lot with his inexperience. Because you got to remember what idiot coached him his first year in the league. You know that guy who wore a visor and was bald? I won't even say his name. You know what I'm talking about. And so we got to see Fields have those 3 things: passing, reading the defenses, and not fumbling the ball. If he could do those 3, he's going to be around. But he's got to be able to, and he's got to move the ball down the field. He's got to make smart plays, and he's got to bring home winners. Well, the whole team does. So that's my opinion on Justin Fields. We'll see. Each game, I want to see improvement like I did last year. We're still building. But this should be the year. Okay, we started building last year. We build in the offseason this year. And they're, of course, in it still. But this year you should see if they've made the right moves over the last 2 years, you should see a big improvement. So we should see in one area, the defense has got to look better. That defensive line was horrible last year, which meant they couldn't stop anybody. They couldn't stop a crawling baby, okay? Which meant then the linebackers and the secondary had to do it all, and they did, which kind of made our rookie secondary guys, a couple of them, shine last year. So I'm hoping this year they do well. But we have to improve that defensive line this year, because if we can't get to the quarterback of the other teams, you saw what happened last year. What did we have? I don't know how many sacks we had, but not many. And the line was horrible. We just couldn't do anything. So in the first game when they played Tennessee, the defense had 8 sacks. Now, there were starters and second stringers in there, but they had 8 sacks. I'd be shocked if they had 8 sacks all last year. I know they had a little more than that, but not much. So that was a bright spot. Again, preseason. 2 guys that stood out to me, though, in that first game were rookie number 29, Stevenson. He's in the backfield. And he's been with us, I think, 4 years now. Number 99, Gibson. He's D lineman. And he is really trying to make the team, because I think Gibson's on the bubble. But he has had some good games, both against Tennessee and Indy. So he's got to continue or he's going to get cut. These guys stood out. And, of course, the offensive line looked better in that first game. Again, preseason. But they did well because they did allow 2 touchdown passes, the DJ Moore and Herbert. And another guy that has been standing out to me is running back Johnson, number 30, who the Bears picked in the draft in the 4th round. And I like this kid. He's good. Now, a lot of people hadn't really heard from him because he played behind a really good running back on Texas. So he didn't get a lot of reps like the other guy did. But this kid can run. And what's nice is he's got fresh legs. They didn't run the shit out of him in Texas and in college. And I believe a lot of these running backs don't last as long in the NFL as they used to, because back in the day, they couldn't run these. They had certain limitations back in the day, certain rules in college, and you couldn't, run your players like they do now. And these running backs, if they run 3 to 4 years and they're their starting running back, they're gassed by the time they get to the NFL. I mean, they have good, careers, but they don't last long like they used to. And I believe it starts because the college wears them out. So this kid looks like he could be something. Although I read something that he could be on the chopping block. I cannot believe the Bears would do that. He looks impressive. He is somebody to watch. So check out number 30 in this last game, because he will be playing. Because when he played the Indy, he played most of the Indy game. He averaged 4.6 yards, had 32 yards on 7 carries. And he just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. So he's someone to watch. And also, the other guy I really liked was the backup quarterback, number 17, Bagent. He was undrafted rookie in this offseason, and you know what? He looked good. He didn't have a lot of chances in that first game, but the second game, he looked good in my opinion. He looked a lot better than that Walker guy. I say, let's keep this guy. You can keep 3 quarterbacks now. And the one nice thing about it, on the 3 quarterbacks, you do not have to name who's your second and third quarterback unless the number 1 quarterback gets hurt. So keep this Padgett guy, get him reps. I don't know. You never know. There was just something about him that I just had this feeling like, wow, this, could he be a diamond in the rough? You never know. I mean, other teams have it happen, right? Bears have never had that luck. Let's face it. In my 48 years, they've had no decent quarterbacks. Jim McMahon was the closest we had, even though he was a tool. But Jim McMahon was hurt all the time, and he had one hell of an offensive line right behind me. Best offensive line in NFL history. Probably not, but I'm just saying that. But in the 80s they were. And so he could stand back there and virtually do nothing. He had a fantastic running back in Walter Payton. He had great wide receivers, Willie Gault, and all of them. So McMahon was the closest they have. We have never had a real, true blue quarterback. Cutler does not count. He had another tool, and he was a big old crybaby. So I don't know. I really like this Padgett guy. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And of course, I'm probably saying his name wrong, which that is something else. If you don't watch me, if you watch me, you know I can't say names. I am terrible, so I usually use their numbers more than their names. So let's keep an eye, because they're saying Coach Flus said that the starters are playing for sure the first quarter. So I'm sure Padgett's going to be in there. Like Johnson, number 30, the running back. I think you're going to see a lot of him, so keep an eye on him, okay? Those 2 players. 2 notable players. Okay, this is the other thing. We've had a lot of nagging injuries in this camp this year, and it's just pissing me off. It's like, what is going on with these guys? Are they not taking care of themselves and practicing right? What's going on? We've got to get these guys back to practice. Now, we have 16 days before the season starts on September 10th. Regular season starts. The first game's on that Thursday, but the Bears play. So they have 16 days to get these guys healthy, and we need everybody healthy. We need them all playing together. All these guys we signed in the offseason, all these guys we picked up in the draft, they have got to start practicing together. 2 notable guys that have come back to practice is number 49, Edmonds, a linebacker who signed with the Bears in the offseason. He played for the Bills for 5 years, and he's really good. So he's come back. He has not played much at all, and we really need him. I'd like to see him in the game tomorrow. And then number 64, Nate Davis, our O-lineman who signed with the Bears in the offseason, who came from Tennessee. He was there 4 years. He has not practiced much at all. And he needs to get in there. Now, he is starting to practice, but not a lot, and you gotta start getting hits so you can get. And here's a real quick short story. My son read an article about Nate Davis and Coach Flus, where when Nate Davis first joined the team and he was going to the OTAs, after one of the practices, there was a note on his locker basically saying they felt that he wasn't giving his all. And that, you signed just because you're a veteran doesn't mean you don't, and he took offense to it. And there was some problems. So then Coach Flus and him went out to lunch. They went out for lobster rolls, which I guess Nate Davis loves. And Coach Flus said, we got to know each other as people, not football players. And then they kept doing it, and now their relationship is really solid. And Coach Flus said, I want to know these guys as human beings, and I want to help them in life, and then football players, which I think is really cool. Coach Flus rocks. So, Nate Davis, come on, man. Get your act together and get on that field, both of you. Edmonds and Davis, you were the 2 biggest ones that worried me. And then, of course, you heard this week, Jenkins, an O-lineman, is hurt again. This kid, they said he could miss up to 6 weeks. This kid has been hurt with the Bears every freaking season. He's been with the Bears 3 seasons. He's a Ryan Pace pickup, and he took him early on, and he's only played 19 games. He's been a problem child from the beginning, and I'm pretty sure when his contract's up, he's gone. And you know what? He might not even make it if he doesn't get his shit together, So this kid, you know what? He played well last year when he was healthy, but he can't stay healthy. And so that's somebody it's a problem. We really need our offensive line, our 2 lines, our D line and our offensive lines were the biggest problem last year. So we've got to turn that around on both of them. Otherwise, if our offensive line doesn't give Fields time to throw, we're screwed again. So it's real important these guys come together and gel. That's why Nate Davis has got to get in there and start taking reps with the one team. So I don't know if he's going to play tomorrow. My guess is he probably won't, but you never know. So come on, Nate. And another guy that has stood out, here's a guy that I was thinking about a lot, was number 12, Jones, the wide receiver. That Poles drafted him in his first draft in the 3rd round, and the Bears, I think, went up to get him. They thought he was going to be really, really good. He came from Tennessee, and he's shown flashes, but he keeps fumbling the ball. They wanted him for special teams, but he keeps fumbling the ball. Did you see that fumble? What was it? Was it the Indy game or was it the Tennessee game where it was the Indy game? He should never have catched that ball. The ball came down, it was a punt, and it bounced and went real high, and he should have done one of these with all his teammates. Get away. And what does he do? He tries to catch it, he fumbles it again. This kid could get cut. This could be one of Poles' first mistakes if he doesn't get his shit together, because wide receivers, we have a room full of wide receivers, although Claypool is still hurt. I don't know when he's going to be back. He's another one. But we've got wide receivers because you got DJ Moore, number 1, Mr. Mooney, number 2. And I've always said, and I love Mr. Mooney, that he's a number 2. He's a really good number 2, though. So what's going to happen is DJ Moore is going to be double covered more, which will allow Mr. Mooney to do his stuff. And he is going to get open more this year, and he's going to play a lot better than last year because he was put in the number 1 spot, and he's not a number 1 receiver. And there's nothing wrong with being a number 2, because if your number 1 is, really, really good, and your number 2 is really, really good, you're going to work off each other. One's going to get covered more than the other, and then when the other one starts opening up, he's going to make the catches, and then he's going to get covered a lot, and vice versa, and it's going to go. So, I don't know. It's interesting to see what's going to happen with Jones, because as I said, as a wide receiver right now, I don't see him a room for him. He would have to do it on special teams, and he has not shown. I mean, how many fumbles did he have last year? Remember, he had so many fumbles. It was terrible. So that guy would not surprise me if he gets cut. And then Poles says, well, Poles has had a pretty good draft these last 2 years. You're always going to have a stinker one in there, and that could be his. You do what you can, right? And then in the Indy game, we only saw 2nd and 3rd stringers because the first teamers had team practices for 2 days with Indies, and the coaches felt that they did well, so they didn't have to practice. But this week, he's going to put them in for the first quarter at least. So let's hope we got a lot of good play out of them. We're seeing, because the Bills are playing their number 1s in the first half too. So what's his name? I can't even think of his name. Oh my God. See, I got to get back into, football and the names. You know me, because I usually know Josh Allen for Buffalo. He'll be playing the quarterback, so he's really good, and they've got a good defense. So I think it'll be a good test for us to see what we got, because we really don't. We've seen dibbles and dabbles here and there, and we're reading, you're reading a lot about how Fields worked his ass off in the preseason, in the between seasons. They said he was the first in and last out, and he was there all the time, and he, honestly, he needed to, because he needs to make, as I said, a huge step this year. Because if he doesn't, the Bears can go draft a number 1 quarterback next year if they had to. And we don't really want to keep playing this quarterback game, but it might happen. But, back of your head, Badgett, number 17, I don't know. I got this, like when I was watching him on last Saturday, the hair on the back of my neck was standing up like, whoo, I'm liking this guy. So You just never know in football. That's what I love about it. But so, so the Bears, we know what they got to do tomorrow is they got to play solid, error-free football. It is the preseason, so I'm not going to go through my, well, I could. What I always say before each game. They've got to, offensively, when they got that ball, they got to go down the field. They've got to have no turnovers, and they've got to win the turnover battle, and they have to have 5 or less penalties. Now, they haven't been doing too bad with penalties in the preseason, so that's impressive, but that wasn't a huge problem with the Bears. There was a couple games, I think 2 games, where they were just stinkers, and they looked terrible in those games. So penalties hurt you because, let's face it, the offense is gelling, penalty. You go backwards. How many times have we seen that in all the years? They're gelling, yellow flag, 4th down. And the Bears aren't good enough to come back from penalties yet. They're not at that level yet, so they have got to get rid of the penalties. That's what it is. So my 3 things, I couldn't remember them all. Time of possession. Bears got to win time of possession. They got to win the turnover battle and 5 or less penalties. And you have a good damn chance of winning that game. Any game if you do those. I say that you'll see, if you start watching me, every day, every show before the Bears game, I will always mention these 3. Okay? So I'm excited. It's a new season. We're back. What I'll do is I'll be back on Monday after Saturday's show. After Saturday's game, we'll talk about it, and we'll go from there. And then the season starts in 16 days, September 10th, which happens to be the day my sweet, awesome niece is due for her baby. And I'm like, oh, that would be great if you had it on the 10th. I have a wedding in New York next weekend. Jeff, last nephew, is getting married in New York. Then my niece, Kate, is having her baby September 10th. And then my other niece, Jackie, is due in early November. And then my son and his wife are pregnant with baby boy number 2. And they're due in late February. So, and this year, if you've been watching me, I had I'm a grandma to a 16-month-old awesome baby boy, and I think this year he's going to be a little bit better watching the games. He's still not going to really know, but he's a Bears fan. Oh yeah, the day he came out, Bears fan for sure. So that's, I always kind of talk about my family a little bit here and there, and anybody special to me, I'll mention. I love you all. I really appreciate people watching me. Today's show was kind of like not much because, let's face it, we really have to wait and see. I'm not one of these people that likes to sit and go, if we do this or he does that or he does this. No. I am let's watch and then we'll talk about the Bears. I don't like doing what ifs or if this guy did this or this, those things will come up during the year on my show, but I'm not, I just can't do that. I like to talk about the Bears once they're playing. That's why I don't start my show until late. Because I had a friend say, well, camp's open. Why is your show not on? I said, because we really don't have a lot to talk about yet. Let's face it. We don't. We really don't know until September 10th. I think it's a 3 o'clock game, isn't it? Or 3:20 game, because you know who we're playing, those fuckers. We're playing Green Bay. Why do they always got to ruin opening day for me? But this year, Bears, we are going to beat them. That's right. And I think it's a 3:30 game, so that's when it really starts for me, when I start to get jazzed. I'm like, okay, now we got something to talk about. So that's what I am about. If you watch me, you know. And I do like to have fun. I will tell stories. I got a million of them. Well, I've been a fan for 48 years, for crying out loud, and I haven't missed many games. I'm sure I have not missed more than these many games out of the 48 years, and I'm not kidding. I'm not. My family will tell you, my husband, well, he's passed away now, but he'll tell you, I always be like, we cannot make plans on Sunday. People don't even call me, my friends or family, on Sunday because they know. See, I watch football all day. I'm a geek. I love college football too, so I may throw that in once in a while too. So, I am just all football. I'm like a man's dream. I really am. I don't want to get married again. I like to drink beer, and I love football. I mean, what guy wouldn't like that? I know. Although, I do look like my father, identical, and it just doesn't look good on a woman, so I get it. That's okay. I married for love the first time, so I could marry for money the second time. Anyways, so that's it. Not a big show today, but I just getting my feet wet, putting myself back in the saddle again, and saying hi to all you. And if you like me, tell your friends, family, tell everybody. Open your windows and scream, "Let's talk Chicago Bears!" I love you all, and go Bears. And as always, you know how I end my shows. We're back to that again. It's not going to change. Love one another. Help people out. Smile when you're out and about. People need to chill out and help one another again. Smiling at people, when people are walking through the store, smiling is so easy. And you don't get the wrinkles. Well, those wrinkles and that double chin. Not cool. And you know what? You never know if somebody's having a bad day and you smile at them. It could make a world of difference. Help people out. Somebody's trying to get something or just, open the door. Let's be kind to one another. We're in this together. Let's stop hate and just all the crap that has been going on these last years. And let's just all get along and love. Please. So, and I love you guys. And, I love my bears. So be kind. Have an awesome weekend. Go Bears. I'll see you guys Monday. And as always, keep on rocking and rolling from Vegas, baby. Bye-bye.